Good evening and welcome to the May 7th meeting of the Guilderland Board of Education. Would you all please silence your cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda this evening is our high school student representative.
Hello. Hi. Okay. So as a start for student government, our Froshmore formal dance has to be postponed because we didn't get a chance to advertise enough. So we're looking to get a good start on that for next year and get a good kick out of it. Today was election day and they go until tomorrow at 7:30. Myself along with Shashank Shankshibag are running for president. So we're hoping that we won. May 1st. May 1st was senior signing day. A lot of the seniors got to go down and sign whether they're going to college, military, wherever they're going after high school. Last week for class of 2020, prom tickets were sold all of last week. So that's out the way. And prom is also next week, so everyone's getting ready for that. International Club. The cultural fair was a success. We're still waiting to hear back which booth won the best booth. I hope it's Jamaica because that's what I had. Silver Conversations. Last week on Thursday at Silver Conversations, they had the topic, what extent is the education system working for students? And a lot of administration was there, and I think that was a well-organized and respectful conversation. It was very interesting. Wednesday before spring break, the eighth graders came to do their visit, and I think it was overall good. They were kind of quiet, but we're trying to get them out of that. The Sources of Strength banquet is coming up, and we also have an invite going out to you all and other staff. Senior shirts went out and ended on May 3rd, as well as freshman apparel, which ends on May 22nd, and we're trying to get them more money so they can have things to spend as well, like us. May last Saturday was the second term of the SATs, and AP testing is this week. The last thing I want to say is this month is May, and it's mental health awareness, and as to show that, we are selling shoelaces to support the Northern Rivers Therapy Group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Raven, don't go anywhere. This is your last report for the 2018-2019
Wow.
school year. Yes.
I thought there was one more in June, but
No, this is the last one. So we want to thank you for doing a phenomenal job this year of keeping up to speed on all the amazing things going on at
Thank you.
Guilderland High School. So don't go away. I have a certificate for you.
thank you guys. Have a good night.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is public comment number 1. Linda, did anybody sign up this evening? Okay. And so now we have a program report related. Oh. Sure, yeah, I'll take it. And just say your name into the microphone when you get there. Thank you. This is Michelle Charles.
Michelle Charles is my name, and I have 2 children in Guilderland's school system. And I'm just coming this evening because being that my children are in elementary school, I just want to know about the curriculum and how it's inclusive of all cultures. From the standpoint that since my daughter has been in 4th grade, they have studied Native American culture, and they're currently studying colonial times in the 1700s. And since I've been at at Linwood Elementary School, I've wondered why they've never focused on the accomplishments of Black Americans. And I think for my kids and for many other African American kids at the school, it's important for them to see their culture and their people valued. And I don't think that much is being done with that. And I have appealed to teachers and Some are okay with my children doing their own report during February, but I don't really see it as something um, where it's something embraced by everyone in the school. I don't think that all teachers really um, set their lesson plans to really tap on that. And it's really disconcerting to me because, like I said, I get a packet about a week long's worth of activities or a unit of activities, and I ask teachers, why aren't you celebrating Black History Month? Why is there no focus on that? And their response is, well, we do things, and they have lists. They can pick who they want to study. For example, one of the packets that my daughter brought home was from Women's History Month. Um, they had maybe a list of a lot of women, and there were, just a handful that were African American. But, when you have that kind of approach, to me, it's kind of like a form of, I don't know, it's just, to me, like glossing over the idea that there is a culture that is important, that should be studied, where the accomplishments of African Americans to the United States is important. I feel a certain kind of way that, they're studying the 1700s and they want to emulate what school was like during that time. And so I asked myself, where do my kids fit in that picture? Because in 1700, African Americans were not allowed to go to school. And so, yeah, it's fun and, all of that. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like you can embrace really talking about the 1700s and not talk about the contributions that slaves have made to America, or even people like Phyllis Wheatley and other artists and musicians of that time period that we never hear anything about. So I come to you because I came earlier when you talked about the budget, and I'm really excited to see how y'all unveil what steps you're going to take to be more inclusive with racial tolerance and cultural differences in this community and in these schools, because I think it's only going to get more diverse. And I think that teachers have to be prepared. They have to be prepared for some of the conversations that are needing to be had. They have to be prepared to teach authentic lessons that reach everyone. And so at the end of the day, I know we talked about budget, and I really hope that you considered that significantly in how you allocate your funds. And I also say that to say that I feel like when units are planned, and when teachers decide they're going to do this or they're going to do that and they're going to do direct teaching, it should include African Americans. It shouldn't be a list of 100 people and you say, okay, you pick who you want to pick. Because most people are not going to pick African Americans a lot of times. And there are not even that many people on the list to really have a variety of people for somebody to really learn about African American culture. And most of the kids that pick the African Americans tend to be the African American kids. And the people on the list tend to be Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and the norm. There's no diversity. And as a parent, I can only do so much. I do lessons and make photocopies and I send it to the teachers, that are open to it, but that's only one teacher. And I guess it has to do with the fact too that there's not really that much diversity amongst your staff, your certified staff, because I think that if you had more certified staff of color, then your lessons and your everyday activities would be more reflective. There would be more of a sensitivity towards it. So I understand when you have a roundtable discussion and you're talking about, the things that could be done or the approaches that could be made, but you really have to have some African Americans sitting at that table to bring a different light, a different standpoint, a different opinion, and they should be a part of your curriculum instruction team. They should be a part of it to bring something that maybe you haven't thought of. Because for me, I'm very in tune to what my kids are doing in school, And when they come home with these projects, or they come home and they say, Mommy, there are no teachers that look like me. Or, Mommy, what role do I play in this activity? Because that's when we had slavery. Am I to dress like a slave? What am I supposed to say? So these are things you have to think about when you send packets home like this about emulating a day in the life of a child in the 1700s. And I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So Ms. Charles raises a lot of good points here. Is there a way that we can continue to keep her involved in the discussion, or at least at the beginning she opened her remarks with asking about what are you doing, how is this being included? Damien, can you follow up with Ms. Charles and talk to her some more about that? Okay. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. And next, we move on to our program report, which relates to graduation seating. Marie, do you want to introduce the?
Sure. Coming up to the podium is a high school principal, Mike Piscatelli, and he has a couple representatives from the high school cabinet who are with him to talk about a topic that's been under consideration by cabinet, and that is seating at graduation. So, Mike, I'm going to turn things to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It was about this time last year that, I don't know if everybody recalls this, a topic came up at the board meeting where it was raised by a board member about graduation seating and how our current graduation seating arrangement, how did it align with our district vision of inclusion? And through that conversation, one of the things that was tasked to the high school and to the high school building cabinet was to discuss this topic. And so in October of this year, we started conversations on it, and we've been working on it throughout the school year. And today's presentation is a result of all that work throughout the year. So kind of starting with where we are, right now, we have students, any student who has a 95.0 cumulative average after 3 years and 3/4 of their senior year sits on stage. We do not, no rounding is allowed, so I just want to be clear about that. So if we have a student with a 94.99 average, they are not sitting on stage. Only students with a 95.0 or higher are on stage. We also have student speakers who are going to be doing a speech are sitting on stage. Kind of a historical perspective of how we got to that kind of setup. Back in the 94-95 school year, it was decided that we weren't going to recognize a valedictorian and salutatorian. And that's when we started recognizing different groups based on their cumulative averages. We started doing honor students, 85 or higher, high honor students, 90 or higher, and highest honor students, 95 or higher. And we are still following that same process today. But to kind of compare how things have changed since then, we did a little data research on it. You can see how the percentages have changed over time. So back in 94-95, we had 18 students with 95 or higher GPA. Going back to last year's graduation, we had 72 students sitting on stage, or 19% of the graduating class. Right now, for the 18-19 graduation, we have projected that 52 students are going to be sitting on stage, which is 14% of our graduating class. So there is a lot more students that are sitting on stage right now. So one of the things that we were trying to get a grasp at was the perception of what does our current seating arrangement convey. And, you know, we did a lot of survey data that Sanal is going to share at the end of the presentation, but one of the things was that it kind of communicates that those who are not sitting on stage are less because of the separation, or the fact that those who are sitting on stage are higher or above those who are sitting on the floor. And as we were discussing this kind of setup that we have right now, we were talking about, well, it's kind of arbitrary by how we're deciding who sits on stage and who doesn't. We picked students with a GPA of 95 or higher. one can make an argument that we should be celebrating the students who have the highest community service hours. Someone could make an argument that we should be recognizing the music students or the theater students or athletes. So it's kind of, when you take a step back and look at it, you kind of say, okay, why are we choosing this group and valuing it more than other groups?
Hello, my name is Carmen Valverde. This is my last kid in school. I have been in the district for 21 years, sitting in building cabinet at the high school, I think, for 10 years or so, on and off. This has been something that has been talked quite a bit. So continuing with what Mike said, why put all students together? It aligns more with what the district is trying to do of being or equal and trying to it creates one less reason for competition. There is enough competition in Guilderland. We don't need one more, and it is very difficult to compete in intelligence or dedication in studying. It is true, these kids that do get a 95 work harder, but who measures success? And supposedly we need to assume that everybody works hard. It's not that the ones that didn't get there because they didn't work hard. So that's one of the reasons I think it should be done. The other is success is measured in many ways. Again, like Mike was saying, it's not only intelligence, it's many other things, and Guilderland does that. We recognize our kids in many other ways. We don't need to sit them separate in order to say they're better or they're worse. They're all, together. The other thing is a sense of community. A tighter community is important for success in everything. So if we're not separating our kids and if we're not making them think that you're better or worse, that creates tighter community and then makes them work together better. Do you change it? Or just So, and we do recognize our kids in many other ways at the end of the year. We have the Seniors Award Ceremony, the Board of Education Awards, the kids wear cords and medals around, the regalia. They're also stand up depending on their grade, so they stand up at graduation ceremony. According to the community servers, they get honors in their transcript. National Honor Society also has an induction ceremony for those that decided to join the Honor Society. The graduation program has little crosses that shows it's honors, no honors, so they are recognized. It's not that they wouldn't be recognized, but there wouldn't be this separation of, yes, they're there and we're here. And also community service recipients and athletic awards nights. So we also asked around the Suburban Council, and this is what we got. The only valedictorian, salutatorian with speakers sits on stage. 2 schools have that. No students on stage, 5 schools have that. Student speakers class, officers on stage only, 4 schools. Top 10s and student speakers, 1 school. Many of the schools have the students come up, speak, and then return to their seats and sit with the audience and with their peers, which is what they are. They're together and they're doing this together. They're graduating together. I think that's what I had to say. I think it's important. The other thing I wanted to say is, with my first, I wasn't able to see him at all because he was sitting in the back. Not only we sit them back there. They're behind the rest of the people that is on stage. But they're seated by alphabet. My son has a V. So I never saw him at graduation. And he had one of the highest grades, so it's incredible. So it's just, I really think it's something that is important to create community, to be together, which is what Guilderland is looking for.
Hi, my name is Sonal. I am a senior. This is unfortunately, my last year on cabinet. And before I start, I want to say that I've kind of seen the process of sitting at graduation as well as our discussions about class rank evolve over the past 2 or 3 years, and it's been an honor to kind of let it culminate to something. So I'm just going to quickly share some of the surveys that we did regarding our faculty, our parents, and our students about graduation seating. So the first survey result on the slide is to the parents. So we got 574 participants, and as you can tell, there's a majority for no, student shouldn't, with a 55% majority, and then 45% of parents believing that students should be separated. So the next one was students, you could argue the most important group. We got 414 participants with, there was a majority with no, students should not, with yes, students should be separated based on any criteria, which was 53.4%, and then 46.6% of students saying no, we shouldn't be separated. Something that's not on the slide that I should bring up is the seniors who this decision would have impacted mostly had the smallest amount of participants in this. So this was, if I'm not wrong, there were a lot of underclassmen voting, and the least were seniors, so I guess that's something interesting. So lastly, we also surveyed our faculty, which was a overwhelming majority saying no, students should not be separated by any criteria, that being 76.8%, and then 23.2% saying yes, students should be separated. Okay, so concluding comments. When being an immigrant, I think graduation to me personally was something that I've looked forward to ever since I moved to the States. And it's not just for me. I know a lot of my peers kind of look to graduation as it's something that kind of completes this chapter in our life. It's an ending to our adolescence. It's a celebration, a ceremony, a tradition. It's a lot of things to a lot of different people. And you know, when we started talking about stage seating, but even before that, when we started talking about class rank, I personally always fell back on how it would reflect on our community. It was, to me personally, it was much less about whether it was a safety hazard, whether we could keep fitting students in as the number of students that met the criteria increased. I reflected more upon how would I feel when I was a senior and graduating, and how would I feel about the stage requirements. And you know, to me this was a very, very personal decision, and I've seen a lot of things these past 4 years, and a lot of my peers, and I think all 350 of us have led very different lives. We've overcome many different challenges. We've had numerous different victories. We've had different teachers. We've had different experiences. Some of us have tried sports. Some of us are musicians. Some of us are going to art school. And they're really, at the end of the day, there's no quantifiable measure for the growth that a lot of us have done over these past all of us have done over these past 4 years. And graduation, to me personally, should not come down to, oh, your GPA is over a certain range, therefore you should sit on top of the stage and not be a part of the rest of your class that's sitting down here. Because to me, if we all came into high school together in 2015, and we all walked into this journey that has been completely diverse, completely different for each and every one of us, we should end this chapter of our journey together. We should be allowed to sit in the stage with all, or not on the stage, on the floor with all 350 of us and share this moment that is never going to come back to our lives again. And we should do it as one group instead of, 25% of us on stage and the rest on the floor, or any percent difference. And that's what I fall back to every time. It's a sense of community, and it's, not having to sit with one group of my friends that's on stage while the rest of my friends I'm looking down upon. I don't want to feel like I'm superior just because I had certain grades in my class means that, maybe I accomplished something more, because I think that's a false perception that when you have the difference in stage seating and requirements, that we're valuing one group over another, and I genuinely do not believe that that's true. And I will, as it might be a coincidence that we found our GPAs out today, so but I have the prerequisites to be sitting on stage this year, and this is something that came up in cabinet, but I will not be sitting on stage because it's in my personal philosophy. I don't believe in what the difference or the separation that's in stage seating, and to me, it's so important to be surrounded by all of my peers, and as we take the next step forward, and although the cabinet decided to get rid of stage seating, I think this year definitely I will be opting out for my own personal reasons. But we did want to come share some of our reasons, whether that was statistically with our surveys or just what we were conveying or what we wanted to emulate, I guess, in a sense of community, in a sense of let's do this together in unity. So we just wanted to share that with you. I think that's it, yeah. But thank you guys for your time.
Can you see why I had Sanal speak last?
Yeah.
So what questions does anybody have that we can try to answer for tonight? Seema?
So it sounds like the cabinet made a decision, and is that for this year or for next year?
So cabinet did come to consensus that we thought, again, and it's our shared decision-making body, we discussed this, we surveyed all the different stakeholders, brought the data back, discussed it, and we did get consensus that building cabinet does believe that we should have a different seating arrangement at graduation. Because this discussion, you can imagine, it took a long time, it took many meetings, that by the time we had gained consensus, it was too late to just say to people, hey, we're going to change it up for this year's graduation. So kind of as a compromise to the two situations, what we decided is we're going to keep the stage seating as it is this year, but any student who is has the GPA to sit on stage is given the choice of whether or not they want to, or they can sit with their classmates on the floor.
I mean, I guess if you're asking for our thoughts, our feedback, that it kind of falls in line with the decision last year to get rid of class rank. So I'm in support. I mean, this is coming from ground up from students, so I don't see why I would, oppose that. So I'm all in favor for that.
Any other questions? Yeah, Judy.
I guess I wouldn't have had a strong opinion, but I was convinced by your student leader here that it is a good thing to do. I like the idea of sitting with your peers and being part of the group that you'd always been part of. So I think it was a good decision.
Yep. Gloria?
Appreciated the comment about starting the journey together. That really struck me. You were all on this journey together, and everybody takes the journey in a different way, but you're celebrating the fact that you've completed the journey. And and it's so true that we celebrate and reward people in so many different ways. But graduation is to celebrate we made it, all of us. Thank you for that.
Things. I have no problem, doing it for next year, but for this year it bothers me a little that you've basically put a lot of pressure on the kids who are planning on standing on stage. And to me, that's a little unfair, That's just my personal opinion. You put them in sort of a funny situation by presenting this, well, you think you're superior to everybody else and all that other kind of thing. So that's just one comment. This is if you were to do it totally next year and just say there's no choice, this is what we're going to do because it is a good idea. And I buy all your arguments. But the other thing that I had is I was looking at your historical perspective. Does it bother you, sort of as the leader of the high school, that we have such high numbers, 19% of the kids that have 95 or better, and you started off with 18 kids back in 94, 95. Is this sort of that grade inflation thing happening within our midst, or?
That is a very different presentation.
Kids suddenly much more right than they were, 10 years ago. That concerns me. I just put it out there.
No, listen, it's very, very transparent that the numbers are very different over time. And I don't have a great explanation of why that is. Should we start talking about the new ESSA requirements for?
Well, I agree with Barb. I think that's kind of one of the things that stood out to me the most. That seems like it's the bigger issue. My only comment would be, I think you need to start to think about how you're thoughtfully going to roll this out and communicate this for next year so that there's not a lot of fallout when the decision is implemented. And I think the students that have been here this year through the process can be very helpful in that.
I agree.
Well, I know you didn't include the seniors and what their numbers were, but what was the general spread? How did the current class feel about the change?
It was interesting. Like Sonal said, it was, I don't remember exactly the number per grade level. Probably the group that was the strongest no against it was the current juniors. It wasn't the seniors. The seniors were actually, thinking back to our data, the seniors were actually higher percentage, actually one of the bigger percentages that they didn't think they should be separated, which is an interesting thing. Sonal and I, we talked about this at Cabinet, and you know, I think it makes a lot of sense, because I think when you're younger and you're thinking about this conversation, you're thinking about how important this is going to be to you. And as you go through the process and you get closer to the culmination, you realize maybe it's not so important as I thought it was. And I feel like that's where a lot of our seniors fell, is I don't think this is as significant. But we made sure we included the parents in this conversation, because that, for that group, I think their perspective might be different in that, so.
Ben?
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, so, just going off of that, the most concerning thing to me in this presentation was the fact that majority of our students, even after a decade of explicit messaging about diversity, equality, and inclusivity, still think that there should be a criteria that separates them into two different groups of graduates. I obviously wholeheartedly agree with building cabinet on this move to change seating. I'm the one who brought it to us a year ago. But I think it's important to recognize, and not to veer off into whole other topics, but that this is just one part of a culture in our schools that's stressing out our kids and really harming their educational experience. We've created this thing where high school is all about getting to this arbitrarily created goal end state instead of about learning and building as you go. And so now this is the last message we send to all of our students. The message is, oh, I didn't quite make it to this stage, and it's not so much that as the fact that so many kids think that that's okay. And so I'm glad we're moving in this direction. I'm glad that we no longer rank children in Gilderland, and I'm glad that we don't that in the future we're not going to be separating them at graduation. But I think this is just one small thing, and I don't think it's an isolated thing where, oh well, the kids don't want to sit up there, that's fine, or the parents don't care, or the teachers don't want it. Oh, so if it's grassroots, we can just get rid of it. I think it has to be part of a systemic attack that we take on this culture that says we can somehow rank children. So that one statistic was more concerning.
Thank you, Ben. Hi, Ben. I didn't know you were there. But I will admit that I was one of those students that focused purely on grades, purely on what could I do to get into college, how good did my scores have to be for me to get into a school with a certain acceptance rate. I won't lie, I was one of those people. And I say the word was because I think that didn't really change until I was a senior. I think, as you were saying, there's a culture behind the fact that high school is just stepping stones to get into college, and then you get onto a good career, and then on, rather than the focus of how much can you learn in high school, how much growth can you achieve. And that's something that I have witnessed, and I know that's something that a lot of my peers have witnessed, because from freshman year, we're like, okay, you need to get good grades, and then you need to prepare for your PSAT, and then your SAT, and then you need to do this for letter of rec, and that's something that we will never be able to change by changing just the seating requirements at graduation, unfortunately. And when we talked about class rank, that was something that came up as, do we want to focus on who has a higher GPA, or is that just arbitrary, or should we focus more on how much growth that we've made as people, as students, as family members? And we're hoping that this getting rid of the stage seating with graduation is another step forward into us trying to show that maybe high school isn't all about the grades that you get or getting to that 95 so that you can sit on stage. That's not the biggest achievement that your high school should be culminated for. And being one of those students, I can genuinely say that that was not an easy thing to realize. I've gone through a lot over the past year that's kind of shown me that high school was not about the grades or where I ended up in college. It was about a lot of other things. But there's a lot of my friends that still focus on the grades, and that are still upset that they have a 94.99 and aren't getting to sit on stage. And there's people that believe that they deserve to be sitting on stage because they've, quote, worked harder. And there's a lot of opinions for why students either want to sit on stage or not sit on stage. And I hate to say it, but I've had people come up to me and say, oh, just because building cabinet is getting rid of sitting on stage, why not give everyone a participation award? Because that's what it has become. And that's something I don't take lightly, because that was not what we wanted to do. This is not to make this a participatory thing. It was to try to build that, or to continue that mission of inclusivity and unity and moving forward, and aspiring to make our high school students better people, better individuals, not just being characterized by a number and then you graduate and then you move on and then you do the same thing at college. It was trying to build that philosophy up, and I'm fortunate that Building Cabinet decided to do this, and I really hope that this is not the last thing on the discussion, because it can't be. There's a lot of systematic change that can't necessarily always come from the students, like this particular conversation came from. It has to stem down from administrations, and it has to come down from teachers, and even Guilderland won't always make the change someone's perspective on that. And I think that's something, just as an education system as a whole, we could do better on. And I'm really hoping that this decision regarding graduation is a step forward, and I hope people see it for what it is, and it's us trying to build inclusiveness and kind of show that this is a community that prioritizes growth, either that's personal, educational, academic, athletic, rather than the numbers and our very specific accomplishments that have gotten us here. So thank you, Ben, for your comment.
I was just going to ask, is this you had said that this is, I know what's going on this year for graduation. Is this a done deal for next year, or is this something that we're having discussion further?
Well, the purpose for tonight was to share that Building Cabinet had discussed the issue, had come to consensus on their point of view on it. We were looking for the board's feedback on the consensus that we came to. So this is kind of a forum to hear your opinions about it as well.
Well, my main concern is that when I looked at the survey, you have 414 participants of students, and it's almost half and half. 414 to me isn't a great number when you have the numbers that we have here as students. I personally think that you should get more of everybody has a say in what it is, because that could skew the numbers tremendously, one way or the other. I may be the minority here, but I do know seniors this year who were very upset about getting rid of that.
Absolutely.
And it didn't affect them, because if they did make that, then they would be there. I don't know what the incoming seniors of next year are going to feel. I was all for getting rid of class rank. And some people were upset that I was for it, but I really do think that when you're dealing with, let's be honest, we are a school and a school does do all sorts of aspects of a person. But we're here primarily to educate. I mean, that's what we're here for. So I think when somebody strives for their 4 years of education, that's a goal of mine. I want to do really well, and they get a 95.5 GPA, and now you're telling them we're not going to acknowledge that with something that we've done traditionally. I think that's going to affect some students. I don't know the number. I don't know if that'll be 10% of the population, but I feel like we are now going from getting rid of class rank, getting rid of a tradition that we've typically done, and then next we're going to get rid of chords. Next we're going to get rid of other acknowledgments, because it's not all about education, it's about the whole kid. So the kid that does really great social work and really does, but gets a 75 should be just as acknowledged as somebody who works really hard academically. That's just a personal opinion of mine, and I do know of some seniors who were discussing it in classroom settings with their teachers and came to me kind of upset at, are you a part of this? Are we not going to be able to go on stage now? And again, I don't know what that number is. Is that just 5% of the population? Is that 65% of the population of the school? Not the senior class, but of the school. Because if we're going to make a decision like that, it's something that we've traditionally done since, I don't know, however, but what you had here was, I think, 93.
94, 95, yep.
So I just think it's something that we should consider as a student body, really as a student body. Never mind parents or faculty. I think it really does affect the kids.
Totally agree with you. I mean, there's some counter to what you're saying, though.
Yep.
I mean, this survey was, everyone in the school had the opportunity
Had the opportunity
yeah,
to.
had the opportunity to do the survey. It was presented in homeroom. Everybody's got a Chromebook. They had the link to the survey. There's part of me that's a little nervous about forcing students to participate, every student to participate, because when a student is not, do not care about the issue or not passionate about the issue, then question the input that I'm getting back from them as well. So it's a balance.
Yep.
And so I totally get it. I think the other thing I would say is to anyone who would say you're taking away my acknowledgement, see, that's why I feel like it was really important to present all the ways students are being acknowledged for their academic achievement. And I think we do it in a lot of different ways. For example, I mean, this was a topic we talked about at the cabinet meeting. One of the things we do at graduation is we have the honor students stand, rise, and be recognized. Then we have the high honor students stand recognized. And then lastly, we have our highest honor students, who are the students sitting on stage. I just want you to visualize this, because this was a topic about being recognized as your individual achievement. You're not really being recognized for your individual achievement. It's one big mass on stage, standing up that nobody can see but the people in the front row, and then you're sitting down. If we had those same students sitting in the audience and being recognized, they are going to get recognized individually in there, because they're going to be spread out around the room. Their parents are going to be able to see them in the audience being recognized. It's just one of those things that I think it's very easy to jump to, we're taking away a recognition. In a lot of ways, I feel like we're enhancing the recognition that we're trying to do. So.
I can appreciate that.
Seema?
Like, I forgot the program, right, also clarifies honors, high honors, highest honors, or whatever. So I feel like Carmen talking about her child being in the back row on the stage, like, I know having been to graduations, I don't even know who's up there, and I'm up there. You can't even really see who's there, so I feel like that program really, highlights the honors of the different students. And the other question is the cords and the medals, are those, I forgot what they represent.
They represent the different.
For honors?
The honor students.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't tell you which color goes with which one right now.
So that's
but
another
the
way
medals
to-
are the
okay.
highest honor students, and they would still get those, absolutely.
Thanks.
Other comments, questions, or feedback? Okay, thank you for coming in
Thank you,
and
everybody.
presenting.
Well, thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is our 2019-20 budget hearing presentation. Neil?
I was not smart enough like Mike to have Sinal do my presentation, so you're going to have to suffer through this just with me. Okay, so tonight we have the 2019-20 budget hearing. And this is a legal requirement, but also it's a great opportunity to remind everybody about the budget that we've been talking about. We're 2 weeks away from the actual budget vote. So again, it's a good opportunity to revisit some of this and have a refresher before we actually have the vote. So as a reminder, the proposed budget for next year, it's $102,107,375. That's a $1.2 million budget increase, or 1.17%. Our tax levy increase is estimated to be 1.44%. And for the town of Guilderland residents, and this is because of the reassessment, we're estimating that the tax rate decrease will be 28.2%. And we typically focus on the town of Guilderland when we give that statistic because that's the largest portion of our school district. And with this budget, we need 50% of voter approval, and we'll talk about that in terms of the tax levy limit calculation. So part of the legal mandate is that we present the budget in 3 components as identified by the state. So there's a program component, a capital component, and an administrative component. So you can see from the pie chart here, program gets the lion's share at 76.6%, capital's next at 12.4%, and then the administrative portion is at 11%. And we'll talk a little bit about the definitions for these categories in the next few slides. First, we'll talk about the program component. You can see that it's slightly up from the previous year, but these are the types of expenses that go along with those individuals typically, because there's a lot of personnel cost here, that have a direct responsibility for students. So we're talking about teachers, guidance counselors, aides, monitors, nurses, social workers, psychologists, those sorts of people. Also in here we have student transportation, again, direct responsibility for students. There's some other areas, co-curricular and interscholastic activity, that also focus on students. So again, that's our biggest component of the budget, as it should be, because we're dealing with children and their education. The administrative component is next. It still remains at 11% from the previous year. So these are the support functions: administrators, supervisors, clerical staff, a lot of central services, and as well as some of the tax collection and legal, but also the school board costs are identified in this component. And then finally, the capital component, gone down a little bit from the previous year, but this is our debt on our buildings. This is for our school buses, so those are capital expenses. We have to borrow money, or we have an investment that we have for a period of time. Tax certiorari, which are tax challenges. If they're awarded, they get paid from the capital component. And then our operations and maintenance, salaries and benefits of custodial staff. Just a review on the revenue side of the budget, where the money is. So state aid, you can see, dropped off a little bit. Our foundation aid went up about $112,000. That was 0.75%. That was the lowest percentage that the state gave to any school district, so we were at the low end of that. We do have some declining aid, and most of that's from building aid. So we're losing debt, but with debt also goes aid. So those are the two components that make that a difference in terms of a reduction from the previous year. Local revenues are up, and that's predominantly due to rising interest rates, so our investments are doing better. And then you can see a lot of categories haven't changed in the next few lines down. Payment in lieu of taxes, we have one of those, and that amount is going up. It's a facility, a senior living facility that work is being done on, so the value of that agreement, well, the assessed value of that facility is increased, and as a result, we're anticipating greater payment in lieu of taxes. In terms of revenues and expenses, as I just talked about, the revenues, property taxes are the largest share at 72.1%. We have state aid at 25.3% and local sources at 2.6%. On the expenditure side, Biggest category is in the salary and benefit areas, that's at 79.1%. We have capital, or contractual services at 7.1%, BOCES services at 4.9%, our debt payments at 5.8%, equipment and supplies are at 2.7%, and interfund transfers at 0.4%. In terms of the tax impact for next year, again, our taxes, our tax levy is estimated to go up 1.44%. So in terms of the actual tax rate, again, a decrease in the town of Guilderland, 28.2%. All other towns, Bethlehem, New Scotland, and Knox, a reduction in the tax rate of 7.83%. So talking a little bit about the town of Guilderland reassessment and what the impact is on school taxes, based on the information we have regarding the reassessment as well as our tax rate information, our calculations show that if your property value increased less than 39%, your tax bill should go down from what it currently is. If your property value increased more than 39%, your tax bill should increase. And if your property value increased exactly 39%, your tax bill should remain right about the same. And just to give you an example so you can see how the numbers would work, assume that a house was valued at $250,000 in 2018. That's right about the median for the town. Your assessment could go up $98,178 at 39.3%. And so you could have your assessment at $348,178 for that home. But because of the decline in tax rates, so in 2018 it was a little over $23, we're estimating that it's about $16.50 for next year. You can see that the tax bill would be the exact same dollar amount, even though the assessment on the home went up $98,000 because of the decline in the tax rate, the tax bill would come out to be the same. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through the process here and valuing or recognizing the change in your assessment and what that might mean in terms of the school tax impact. We do have an online calculator that's shown at the bottom of the slide. You can go on our website and actually pick your town and put in your assessment, and it will generate for you what the taxes will be based on our current estimates. Talk a little bit about the tax levy limit or property tax cap. It's an 8-step formula. It was determined by New York State. We have no control over that. The basic premise behind it is that the increase in the vast majority of expenses is limited to 2% or less. And really the whole purpose of the formula is to determine a threshold. And the threshold will indicate whether you need 50% of the voters to approve the budget, or you need a supermajority or 60% to approve the budget. And another thing is, if the budget is defeated, and that's typically would be twice, you can put up a budget for revote. If it's defeated once, no increase at all is permitted in the tax levy, so you have to live with what you have in the current year. In terms of the actual calculation, I'll just walk through this quickly. We start with a prior year tax levy. We do get to use a tax-based growth factor that's set by the state, so every school district can go and get their number from the state. We have a little growth there, and that represents new construction within the town, so it's not just changes in assessments, really what they call bricks and mortar, new building. That brings us up to our subtotal increase, just $72.6 million. We have the ability to add in our payment in lieu of taxes, in this case $73,570 from the current year. And then we have our capital expenditures, and again, this is construction, this is buses. State decided in this formula that those expenses should not be subject to the 2% or less caps, or outside of that. So that's why you see that coming out of the formula, so it won't get affected by that. That leads us to our adjusted prior year tax levy, and that's where we apply our factor. So this year, the CPI is a little over 2%, so it's capped at 2%. It can be anywhere from 0 to 2%, but no more than 2%. So you can see when we back out the capital exemptions, they're outside of the formula, they're not capped at the 2%. All other expenses are. Applying the 2%, we're at $72.2 million. Now we get to add in next year's, or subtract out next year's pilots, excuse me. It's at $259,000. That gets us up to our, what is truly known as the tax levy limit. And then we get to make another adjustment for capital expenditures for the following year. That's an addition in this part of the formula, and that gets us to our maximum allowable tax levy amount of $73.5 million. This is just another view of the same information. So we have our proposed, our tax levy limit, which we just described at $73.5 million on the left. That's a $1.226 million increase, or 1.7%. The budget we're proposing, the tax levy is $73,338,000, a little over $1 million of 1.44%. So the difference between what we could spend and still be within the tax levy versus what we proposed in the budget, we're $185,000 less than the maximum. So again, that puts us in that 50% category for having an approved budget. We always like to demonstrate what the budget votes have been, the approval margins, how many people have voted. So here you can see a history over the last 6 years. And you can see over the last 4 years, our positive votes have been above 70%. Voting, number of voters varies from year to year. 2,600 goes down to 2,000, up and down a little bit. We've also given you the projected tax rate increase at the time of the vote. So you can kind of look at the data, and if there's assumptions that can be drawn from that. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but it is a good historical document to look at how the votes have transpired over the last few years. We also have the contingency budget and the tax levy limit law. So if the budget fails to pass on the first attempt, as I mentioned before, the Board of Education can choose to put that up a second time, or choose to go directly to a contingency budget. If it's defeated the second time, there is no other option. The board has to adopt a contingency budget. And when you adopt a contingency budget, you have to take out what are called non-contingent expenses. So things like new equipment, community use of buildings, they have to be removed for the budget. We don't have an option about that. And then there also is an administrative budget cap requirements, a percentage of expenditures, and that can't exceed the prior year as well. So there's kind of on two levels. You also have to make sure you're down to the contingent budget, and it could go further than that if you have an administrative budget cap to meet as well. So again, if we're in a contingent budget situation, tax levy, the amount of dollars that we raise from the community, may not increase by any amount over the current year. So we're stuck at that tax levy amount. And for, again, 2019-20, because that's the year in question, we would be looking at just over $1 million in expenditure reduction, or some combination of additional revenue and or expenditure reductions, and that would need to be met in order to meet the contingency budget requirements. So it is significant. So for the budget vote, propositions and board election, again, the proposition for the budget, $102,107,375. We have a bus equipment proposition, that's $939,400. We have a capital project bond proposition, $30,926,000. And then we have three candidates vying for the three open seats, and these are in alphabetical order: Barbara Frederico, Kelly Person, Gloria Toll-Hilt. And again, we have a lot of information on our website about all of these topics: the budget, the bus, the capital bond, as well as information about our board candidates. And we also have a newsletter going out as well. And again, just a reminder for everybody to please come to vote. Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. We open at 7 in the morning. We close at 9 o'clock at night. You vote at the elementary school in your attendance zone. If you're not sure which school that is, you can go to our website at the address shown on the screen. It's called Find My Poll Place, so it kind of tells you what you're looking for. And we have the street listings up there with the attendance zones. Also, you can call our district office if you need that information as well, and we can give you that over the phone if need be. So with that concludes the budget hearing, and open to any questions.
Are there any questions for Neil or comments? Okay, thank you, Neil, and thank you for all of your hard work on this year. Okay, and now we move to our consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes from the April 9th meeting as well as the April 17th meeting, the CPSC and CSE recommendations, the personnel action items, and the financials. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Barbara, second Seema. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. And now we move down to information items, and we will begin with Damien, curriculum and instruction.
Thank you very much. I have a long and fantastic list of student accomplishments to share with you over the course of the past so. And I'll begin with some news from the art department. And this is in regards to the high school regional recognition awards. We want to extend congratulations to David DeParco of grade 12, who was awarded the President's Award for his drawing titled Two-Faced, and Serena Duran of grade 9, who was awarded an honorable mention for her drawing titled Dystopia. I'm happy to share photos from the high school regional reception at the Albany Center Gallery. You can see the work is absolutely amazing. My next item, I'm pleased to announce and also to invite you to a TEDx event. We had two high school students who I had the pleasure of working with, Anish Mukidi and Aiden Doyle, who have received a license to host a TEDx event here at Gilman High School on October 4th. A TEDx event, a local gathering where live TED Talks like talks and videos previously recorded at TED conferences are shared with the community. TEDx events are fully planned and coordinated independently on a community-by-community basis. Content and design of each TEDx event is unique and developed independently, but all of them have features in common. So again, the date is October 4th. We will certainly be publicizing that date and that event in the early fall. We hope you can attend. In the music department, each year, the Guilderland High School Music Department holds a concerto competition. We have so many talented students throughout the department, the choice is always very difficult and it's highly competitive. The winner of this competition gains the privilege of a spring solo performance with one of the large ensembles. This year, the music department is pleased to announce that junior Kenny Yamashita won the 2019 competition. In addition to his pianistic abilities, Kenny is also a clarinetist, performing in the DHS Wind Ensemble and the Empire State Youth Orchestra. Of course, congratulations goes to Kenny and the high school music teachers for this recognition of hard work, musicality, and dedication. And I'm also pleased to extend congratulations to GHS junior Colin McEnany Ingraham for winning a first-place gold medal at the March 23rd New York State Regional History Day for his exhibit, Ginning Up the Cotton Production, For the Cotton or For the Slaves. Colin went on to represent GHS at the New York State History Day competition in Cooperstown, which was held on April 29th. And from our World Languages and Cultures Department, we had 7 Guilderland High School French students ranked nationally in the Grand Concours. The annual event is a national competition sponsored by the American Association of Teachers of French. Students were evaluated for their written, oral, and listening comprehension skills. Across the country, more than 17,000 ninth grade students competed in the 2019 event. And from Guilderland, we had Michael Chang and Grace Wade, who earned gold medals. Abishki Nadala and Tianlia Q earned silver medals. Magana Bupidi, Ajgar, and Serena Duran earned bronze medals. Nora Eversman, Chelsea King, Emily Ravalli, and Sophie Bernard received honorable mentions. We want to, of course, congratulate them and the French teacher, Mrs. Lauren Anderson. And one more piece from the art department. We had high school 11th grader Cynthia Wu, who received the Jurors Art Award at the 2019 Fulton Montgomery Community College High School Regional. We're proud of all of our students whose work was accepted in the show, and they include Sandy Aldieri, Sarah Quazzini, Devin DiBianco, Gabby Demura, and Allison Cusimano. And finally, again from the music department, we each year host the choral and instrumental ensembles from the Guilderland School District to attend the NYSSMA, or New York State School Music Association, major ensemble evaluations. In these events, large ensembles receive written and recorded comments, suggestions, and critiques from 2 adjudicators. The music performed is specifically selected from graded literature approved by the NYSSMA and groups from across the state that strive for a perfect performance. Attending the instrumental evaluation at Shaker High School on April 15th and 16th were the 7th grade band under the direction of Mr. Jason Utter, 8th grade band under the direction of Mrs. Alexis Zauman, FMS Select Band, also Alexis Zauman, sixth grade orchestra, Mrs. Christy Green, and the high school wind ensemble, Mrs. Ellinger was the director. Attending the choral evaluation at Mississippi High School on April 16th and 17th for the FMS Select Choir under the direction of Mrs. Terry Weeborder, and the sixth grade chorus under the direction also of Mrs. Terry Weeborder. So it's been a very busy couple of months here and some great accomplishments for our students.
Thank you, Damien. Are there any questions or comments for Damien? Okay, and now we will move to school business information items. Neil?
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to talk about the District Health Insurance Committee recommendations for the 2019-20 school year. And just to give you a little idea about the Health Insurance Committee, because we don't talk about it a lot, it's a little unique in our district compared to other districts. Typically, when other school districts talk about health insurance and somebody in contract negotiations, so part of the contract in terms of what plans there are and what benefits there are, our district doesn't have that. The only things that we have in our partner union agreements are basically who's eligible, what your contribution will be. And the third thing is that you will have representatives that sit on the district-wide health insurance committee for those other types of decisions. So we don't have anything in there about certain plans or deductibles or co-pays, anything of that sort. So when we're doing negotiations, we don't get hung up on health insurance because we're handling that off to the side. So, but this health insurance committee meets with representatives from all the bargaining units, meets every year and meets multiple times each year. So this last year we met 5 times, and we have 10 bargaining units, so representatives from all the 10 bargaining units. Lynn and I co-chair the committee. And basically, each year we're looking at finding out more information. We work with our consultant, our consortium, which is the Health Insurance Consortium, ACASHA, and we have one of the brokers there working with us in terms of analyzing our plans, looking for opportunities for cost savings, really what makes the most sense, where's the trends, what should we be doing, how can we do things more effectively, more cost effectively and more effectively. So we did look at plan benefit designs and with the goal of identifying some opportunities for cost savings again this year. The committee's actually been engaged in conversations for 2 years now, this was the second year, about moving toward a model plan design. And the consortium has decided to do this, and we have a board of directors that have been looking at these types of issues. And really what's happened with the consortium, we have a number of school districts. We actually have seven additional suburban council school districts besides ourselves in the consortium. But we all came to the consortium with plans that we had and certain benefit designs. And as people have entered the consortium, now we have many of the same plans. The benefit structures aren't always the same. So there would be some efficiencies gained if we could all land on one plan benefit design. Common copay structure, common deductibles. That makes the administration of the plan a lot easier, so we work with Blue Shield and we work with CPHP, but they're also administering not only working for the consortium, but they're having to administer different variants of the same plans with different benefits. So they have to separate them all, and we have to worry about making sure they're applying the right benefit structure to the right employee group. So there is some benefit, obviously, on the administration side from having a model plan design that everybody can participate in. It also works in terms of our premium component. Right now, with Blue Shield, because it's an experience rated plan, there's an analysis at the end of the year that comes up with what's the composite experience rating for the group. And then there's a formula that then looks at each school district's claims experience. And if you do better than the composite rate or the average, you get a lower premium rate increase for the following year. If it's worse, you get a higher premium rate increase. So there's some equity there in terms of recognizing different groups' experience. But it's also capped on both entities, 7 points either way. So you're within the framework of, there's a bottom limit and an upper limit. And that's really to protect schools against a bad year. So any of us know that in any given year, you could have a small number of individuals that have serious health issues, whether it be prescription drug side or hospitalization and care, can drive up costs wildly, particularly on the prescription drug side. So that kind of puts some cap on those 2 endpoints so that nobody gets hurt too badly when you have one of those extreme situations that comes up, and everybody takes their turn with those sooner or later to have those situations. But if we're all on the same plan design, then we can get a true measure of our experience, and we don't need to cap cap it in the same way. We can all have, because we all have the same benefit design, so we will be sharing all of the experience equally at that point. So when we looked at that, the Health Insurance Committee, in their analysis, was able to go through and identify that with the model plan design changes, which caused some increases in co-pays and deductibles, that there was, even with those, there was some savings to the plan by going along with that model. And it will get better as more school districts join as well. So it was their consensus to move to the model plan design for July 1st. So we're able to, basically in the course of this year, get our entire school district to move to different health insurance plans with different design benefits. And that will work in line with the consortium. So I'll just walk through some of those changes for next year. So in terms of our plans, we have an MVP HMO plan, $25 office copay dental coverage. That rate renewal increase is 2.9%. That is outside of the consortium. That's the only HMO plan we have, and we don't have a lot of people in it, but it does serve a segment of the capital revenue. Then moving on, we have the Blue Shield PPO plan. It's a $25 office copay with vision and dental coverage. So there's a $5 copay increase for office visits, a $250 copay increase for inpatient admissions or treatment, $100 copay increase for emergency room and ambulance, $80 copay increase for outpatient surgery, $10 copay increase for urgent care. And in exchange for that, we were on a grandfathered plan under the ACA Act. That will actually be zero, so that we're paying for some preventative services. So there's a savings there of, for employees, $20 per visit for preventative and wellness services. So they'll be covered in full, and before they were paying $20 for each of those visits. All of that being said, the rate is, our premium rates are going down 3.1% for that particular plan. The Blue Shield point of service plans, $25 office copay with dental coverage. Again, $5 copay increase for office visits. Some of the same $250 copay increase for inpatient admission or treatment, $150 copay increase for emergency room and ambulance, $80 copay increase for outpatient surgery, $50 copay increase for urgent care. And again, the same sort of thing. Now it's a $0 copay. It was $20 for preventative and wellness services. The renewal for that plan is 0.7%, so less than 1%. CDPHP PPO plan, that remains a $25 office copay with dental coverage. There's an increase in copays for inpatient admission treatment to $250, $50 copay increase for emergency room and ambulance, $75 copay increase for outpatient surgery, and again, $0 copay for preventative and wellness, and it was $25. And the rate renewal increase there, that plan is going up 1.2%. We also have a number of Medicare Advantage plans. We did a couple things here. We replaced Medco and ESI prescription drug writers with Centers for Medicaid Services drug writers, and we also added a dental plan to the CDPHP plan, and that was to get rid of some adverse selection between the Blue Shield plan and the CDPHP plan. Rate renewal change, so the Blue Shield in-network PPO, that increased by 3.1%. Blue Shield out-of-area plan increased by 3.1%. CDPHP, the PPO plan premiums decreased 43.4%, and on the HMO side, they decreased 38%. We're also recommending, the committee recommended that the following prescription drug plans continue with no change in plan benefits. We have an Express Scripts self-insured prescription drug program, $5 generic, $25 brand name, and $40 brand name non-preferred. No increase at all in terms of prescription drug coverage. And then we also have a mail order Rx drug option for brand name maintenance medications with a $0 copay, and that plan increased 5%. So all in all, we either have decreases or very low increases in our health insurance plans, and I think the budget was a reduction overall of about over $300,000 in savings as a result of the committee's agreement and consensus on these changes.
Oh. That's great news. Are there other districts that are interested in joining the consortium that are not there yet?
Yes. It's grown a lot, particularly over the last 5 years. East Greenbush, Averill Park came in. Got several smaller schools coming in from farther away, but certainly the consortium is growing, and geographically we're getting a wider spread of schools. Certainly does grow.
Questions for Neil? Barbara?
PO and Blue Shield POS, what do those acronyms stand for?
Preferred Provider Organization is the PTO, and POS is Point of Service.
How are they different?
One's the Preferred Provider Organization is the set network of doctors that you need to go to. The POS is not as restricted. I don't know if you can go anywhere. I'd have to look at. I don't have that particular plan, so I'd have to go back and look at it for sure.
Now, our retirees have to have probably one of the Medicare Advantage plans, or can they have the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan?
They can have one of the regular plans. Most of our retirees are in the Medicare Advantage plan. Yes, they utilize all of them. Just depends on what works best for them, if they're in area a lot or not in area a lot. Kind of looking at the coverage area, but most of our retirees have opted to go into the Medicare Advantage plans.
Now, if you're a retiree, do you have to still maintain your New York State residency, or can you go live in Florida or Tennessee or anywhere else?
You can be out of the area, and that's like Blue Shield is nationwide, and CDPHP has built a nationwide network. The HMO component, you have to, if you're traveling, you have to come back for treatment. But the other plans now have nationwide coverage.
Other questions for Neil? Okay, thank you. Now we move to superintendent information. Marie?
Thank you very much. My first item is to recognize some of our students and teachers who were awarded recognition at the 22nd Annual Outstanding Student and Educator Awards for the YMCA. So I want to congratulate the 11 Guilderland High School students and 3 Guilderland High School educators who were honored at the District YMCA Student and Educator Awards program on April 16th. The ceremony honors those who have made outstanding volunteer contributions to their communities, and Guilderland was proud to have 14 honorees. Among the students were Shayana Adami in 12th grade, Emily Borden, 11th grade, Amy Chen in 11th grade, Maria Dean in 11th grade, Rubina Furdas in 10th grade, Colin Ingraham in 11th grade, Amal Kumar in 10th grade, Anjani Ramanyaman, 11th grade, Isabella Smith in 12th, Sophia Vianney in 11th grade, and Muriel Zhao in 11th grade. And then our 3 teachers who were recognized were Mr. Jared Foro, who's a high school science teacher, Mr. Mike Canali, who's a high school social studies teacher, and finally Ms. Alicia McTiernan, who's also a high school science teacher. It's a beautiful event held at the Appel Inn. Guilderland always has the best crowd, and we're always quite proud of that. So congratulations to everyone. My next item is to recognize our school nurses, and tomorrow, May 8th, 2019, is National School Nurse Day. National School Nurse Day was established to foster a better understanding of the role of school nurses in the educational setting. This year's theme is School Nurses Making the Grade on School Health. School nurses lead the way to advance health and support education by ensuring that students are safe, healthy, and ready to learn. We're so appreciative of the good work of our own nurses here in Guilderland. They have tremendous medical expertise, a caring manner, a commitment to the well-being of our students, and they truly make a difference. They have a tough job. So if you see any of our school nurses around and about this week, be sure to give them a big thank you for all the good work they do. My next item is really just to close the loop on our job fair that was held on April 11th, 2019. We hosted once again the Capital Region School District Job Fair and had 37 school districts and other organizations who came to fill our large gym. We had over 290 candidates come to submit applications and participate in brief interviews with representatives from participating schools. The feedback from potential employees and future employers was excellent, and all appreciated the opportunity to come together at this event. And I want to thank once again Lynn Severance and her team of co-planners and all who contributed to the success of this worthwhile and sought-after event. So thank you, Lynn.
And did that little bus end up making it?
We didn't have the little bus.
No, we didn't. It seems to be an every other year event.
I know, it's always exciting when it's there.
It's very exciting to have it there. All right, so next year that will be on the agenda.
That's right.
My next item, Leo alluded to this, but I just want to give an update to our communication plan for our May 21st vote and election. We have several ways for our community to learn more about the 3 propositions that are going before our voters on May 21st. Arriving in homes later this week will be a 12-page newsletter. This contains information on all of our propositions, the budget for 1920, the bus proposition, the capital project, and then the election for 3 board seats. So please look for that in your mailboxes. A ton of work went into that. We tried to make it clear, succinct, easy to read, with lots of references back to our website, where Aubrey has done a tremendous job collecting lots of information about all 3 of those propositions. So if you click the link under News Headlines, which is in the banner at the bottom, it will take you right to the all the information you need about the vote, with lots of links to calculate your taxes and learn more about the town assessment and anything else you might want to know. Also this week, and we're actually going to do a sneak preview, we have created 2 brief videos to highlight our capital project. One of them is ready for prime time tonight. We're going to show it. One of them is still getting tweaked a little bit. But as you know, one of the elements of our capital project is to do some work on our high school labs. We have some learning spaces here that are 50-plus years old, and we wanted to tell the story of why it was important to change them. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to ask Damien to hit play on our couple-minute video here featuring some faculty, staff, and students.
Well, I'm relatively new to the Guilderland School District, and one thing that I was surprised by when I came was how outdated some of the science facilities really are. And I think that compared to other schools in the Suburban Council and other schools in the local upstate area, we definitely don't offer our students some of the things that other districts do, and that puts our students at a disadvantage.
Essentially what you see is a regular classroom. So you'll notice that there's no lab tables in this room. There are 6 of us in the department that are teaching science classes in regular classrooms. Makes it very difficult to do laboratory work. These courses could be a lot more hands-on, but it's really hard to do that when you're teaching in a classroom with minimal lab space.
I think we as students can see like our science labs are from a different millennium. I think that if we were to have some of the proposed updates like new science labs, things like that are just more conducive to being competitive learners.
I don't think we're asking for cutting edge 21st century top of the line equipment. I think we're just asking to have a level playing field amongst the department and with other schools.
Some of the courses that I teach, like biotechnology, are cutting students out because of capacity. In biotechnology, we're culturing bacteria, and based on the size of the room, I can only fit so many students at my back counter to be able to do that. So students are being denied those courses because we can't fit them into this space.
Other teachers that have a larger space, their students are have much easier access to certain things that can accomplish those things in a less amount of time. For my students, it might take them longer, not because that they're not capable of doing it in a certain amount of time, but because of the equipment that we have available, it takes longer to do. Takes longer to accomplish.
So that's the first. Aubrey will be posting that to our website. We'll be putting it out on all of our social media channels, as well as our public access channel on television. Late in the week or early in the next week, depending on the editing, we'll have the second video, which is more general about the project. It talks about the safety, security, infrastructure, and it features Gloria Toll-Hill speaking on behalf of the board, Michelle Viola-Straight, who's the president of the Guilderland Chamber of Commerce, also speaks on our behalf on the value of schools, and we have a number of students who are speaking as well. So that's getting tweaked as we speak, and it will be everywhere soon. So we spoke with Melissa Hale Spencer earlier today. We'll have a letter to the editor next week reminding people about the vote and the importance of going out to exercise their right. And then next Thursday is our meeting with the McCownville Neighborhood Association. And we'll be talking with them and hopefully showing our videos and helping people understand kind of what we're trying to accomplish. And then lastly, we're in the midst of our PTA meetings and talking with our wonderful supporters there, sharing this one-page summary of 8 months of work and $102 million. It's amazing how all that can become one sheet of paper for that night. But we're doing lots of things to get word out about our propositions. And so, questions, comments, thoughts?
Will you be at the GES and GHS PTA meeting that I'm supposed to be at on Thursday?
DOT has them all covered.
Okay, because
So-
I'm also supposed to be at the Farnsworth, the President's Awards.
I
So
will be
wanted
at
to-
President's Award.
Thursday.
So are you,
I'm going, well.
where are you going?
Well, I had 3, so I'm going to go to the President's Awards.
Okay.
PTA said I could send a written report, but if someone's going to be there.
Lynn will be at GHS. Okay, yes, we parsed these out today.
Wonderful.
So we're getting close. My last item is also a very exciting opportunity. As you know, our solar farm is now fully operational. And we've been working, and when I say we, I have to say Cliff Nooney, because this has been a labor of love, but some frustration too, for, I think we're 2.5 years, but the solar farm is up and running and already producing savings for us. And the company that we've been working with, called Forefront, offered us an opportunity to formally open the solar farm. And so that's going to happen next Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. It will be at the site. I think you all received the invitation today. On Wednesday morning, we're hoping that it stops raining and is not raining on that day. We'll have some students joining us. We have a bus of students from Farnsworth, Altamont, and Linwood, so that students can actually see what this humongous solar farm looks like. And then the folks from Forefront are actually going to go back to one of the schools and do some, now that you've seen it, here's what it means kind of work with the students. We've invited Pat Fahey, George Amador, all of our county legislators, Peter Barber, the chamber, all of you, and there will be press releases out, so obviously all are welcome. So that should be a fun event next Wednesday morning. If you can make it, we would love to have you.
Are we videotaping it? Or?
We are not only videotaping it, we're going to have a drone.
What?
Yes. Well, that's in the plan. Neil's looking at me like, not sure about that. Cliff's plan. Cliff has a plan, and I think it's either Forefront and/or BOCES can help us with this, so that we can take the picture aerially and have some students in there, and then pan out to see just how massive. It's 22 acres of solar panels.
Wow.
So.
What about press, too?
We've got a press release going out.
Okay.
I know Aubrey's actually spoken directly with a couple of the TV stations
Yeah,
today.
that sounds like it'd be a great.
Because it's a great visual.
Whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just thinking of putting some together for, our channel,
I think we can take the footage from the drone plus some other photos
Yeah,
that
put something together.
put it together. It's very cool.
That's awesome.
Where will people
Where's
park
Cliff?
today?
You know, Neil drove up there the other day. Forefront has said they will prepare the site, and we're taking him up on that. I would say wear sensible shoes.
Boots.
And there might be that you need to park at the bottom and walk up. I don't know, Neil, if you want to weigh in, because wasn't wearing sensible shoes, so I didn't go there.
Yeah, you definitely want to wear comfortable, sensible shoes. It's larger rock is the road right now, so it's not a huge stone, but larger stone than small pressure run. Going up to the site, it's a little walk up to the site too. It's at the top of the hill, so it's a little incline going up.
So it's an adventure.
It's a terrific event.
That's great.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Marie. Okay, now we move down to board president information items. The first item is a variety of board policies up for a first read this evening, and I will ask Barbara if she wants to say anything special about any of these policies presented.
Oh, this is just for a first read. Some of them are just our continuous update of policies, others are tweaks that are required.
Can I add something?
Sure.
The policy that we talked about with the volunteers, the parent volunteers, or any volunteers that go into the schools, I think people should really look at that carefully and get feedback, because that's a pretty big change to have people to go into schools and have to fill out an application to be a volunteer, which I'm not sure how that will go. I think it's important, but I also think, it's hard to get people to.
Don't want to discourage people.
Yeah, and I think that will be, I don't know how teachers feel about that, so I just wanted to bring attention to it.
Is this one that you've been working on for a while? I thought I heard something about this at the beginning of the year. Okay.
Is there a way to streamline that so that way we're not getting to that point where a parent wants to volunteer and we're saying, wait, you can't because you didn't do an application?
Well, I think that's what will happen.
Which is why I think it has to be streamlined. There has to be, in the beginning of the year, in the packet that goes home that says if you expect to come into the classroom at any point, please have this on file.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about kind of what you said, sending it all out so everybody has it's not like they have to go and ask for it when time comes, but then has to be on file and someone has to check it in the office. And I don't remember it was a while ago that we talked about this, but I just remember having a longer discussion about it, so.
Right, the hope was that it could last all year,
Yes.
So sign up for the PTA in September and you fill this out at the same time. And again, it's just so that we have it somewhere, information on everyone who's in our schools. But I agree with Steve, everyone really should take a look at it because there are good arguments for both sides.
And it doesn't carry over from year to year? Like if you fill it out when your child's in kindergarten, it wouldn't
But some of
be
those things
sufficient?
could change, because they ask do you have something, I don't know, like domestic violence charge against you or something like that. So to have it every year, that could change in 4 years or 5 years.
I think if you're gonna have it, you're gonna have to do it every year.
Yeah.
And so will that prevent, so what,
I think it's a safety thing, so there's notification that, I don't remember, there's 2, I think, exhibits here, right? Like K and L. So there's, I don't know, there's some examples there of what they would be,
Questions that would be asked.
Yeah, questions that we ask that they have to answer.
is there gonna be some, process here in the district office that, or somewhere that vets out those questions? Because I could easily be convicted of a criminal offense and check no. Is that going to be, if you're really the criminal you make yourself out to be, are you gonna really self-disclose that?
Right,
if you
we
really
do
wanna be in there?
the license, right, like at the security check. So we talked a little bit about how that is also one step to help along with this, but I don't know.
I just don't want to create a process for the sake of creating process that doesn't result in anything that protects the students.
Yeah.
I think that's, but I will look at it.
It might be helpful for us to look at it all first before we try to define it yet.
I just wanted to bring it up because.
Letting us have policies like this and application forms and confidentiality agreements. We borrowed heavily from Saratoga, for example. So I'll just point that.
I guess in the follow-up on this, I'd like to know what the process is going to be if we're going to adopt a policy that has pretty significant changes. How is that policy getting implemented at the school level on the day-to-day? Because we're not going to be the ones implementing the regulation of that. We're going to set the policy, and I need to know that if we're going to set policy, it's going to be followed up by the correct process.
But I think it would be really important to get feedback from teachers, because they're the ones that have the volunteers come into their class, or other people in the building, librarians. I know a lot of parent volunteers that go into the libraries to help. So I just think it'll impact, it'll have a lot of impact in terms of at the building level. So I feel like we need to get a lot of feedback before just making a policy about it.
Now,
Yeah, Barbara.
I just want to say, this particular suggestion that we're bringing forward to you has gone through many iterations along the life's way, and it has been looked at by the principals. Now, I don't know how involved, they were with the teaching staff, but I know the principals have taken a look at it.
I mean, it's late in the year at this point to put a policy in place like this, that would it really even have
We're not
effect?
talking about the-
Right, so there's time, I mean, to solicit additional input, because our general process is a policy comes for a first read at one meeting,
Right.
and then is up for approval at the following meeting. Is it necessary to put it up for approval at the following meeting, or do we still want to solicit more input?
Oh, if there's general questions like Sean is asking, there's no rush. We can
Okay.
take our time and do it right.
Sounds good. Teresa, did you have?
I was just going to ask a question about the confidentiality agreement. Did we find that it was necessary to do something like that?
Yes.
I didn't know where that came from.
Yes.
Why?
Well, when you're a volunteer in a classroom, you have access to student records, you have access to student behavior, and we have to have an expectation that when volunteers come in, they won't leave the school and then talk with others about behaviors that they may have observed or students who may have been struggling with a particular kind of assessment. I mean, just the things that they see in school that are essentially private pieces of data about children. So it is, that's probably the most important part of it, just to remind people that student records are private, and student records come in many forms.
Sorry, one final question here on the privacy piece, because that's where I was looking at next here. It says students' work, such as artwork or scholarly work, is protected by law and cannot be shared publicly without permission. We sort of already do that, though. I mean, I don't remember ever, like my daughter has her artwork on display at the library. I don't remember ever signing something that says that we've released that artwork.
You opt out.
Yeah, we have the opt-out policy. Everybody's in unless you opt out.
Okay.
But that's like your own kid. But if I was a volunteer in a class and then I saw, something happening
Right.
talking about another kid, I think that's come up probably many times. And I know there's FERPA Act to protect students' privacy, so it feels like it covers everything.
Well, I know if I go into school, I'm very careful just to take a picture of my daughter and my daughter only. But although there's a question about should I be doing that without her, without her also.
She might disagree with
I mean, that's a current issue, whether or not you have consent to share their information on social media that way. Because anyway, we'll go down a rabbit hole if I ask that question.
Is there any more discussion on this topic for now? Okay. The next item relates to voter registration for the May 21st vote. The public vote on the school budget, bond referendum, and Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. Voter registration is required in the Guilderland School District. To vote, you must be 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, and a resident of the Guilderland School District for at least 30 days prior to the vote. If you are not registered with the school district or the Albany County Board of Elections, you must do so prior to the vote. The district has established 3 dates for residents to register to vote on May 21st. You may register anytime between 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. at any of the elementary schools, or from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the district office on the following dates: Thursday, May 9th, Monday, May 13th, Tuesday, May 14th. You may also register with the Albany County Board of Elections during their normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. If you are not sure which elementary school to vote, please refer to our webpage, the link Budget and Taxes, and use the quick link in the drop-down called Voter Eligibility and Absentee Ballots. You can see if you're registered and where you vote in the elections. And the next item relates to the Board of Education election. The deadline for Board of Education candidates to return their completed petition was April 22nd, 2019. There are 3 3-year terms on the board that expire June 30th, 2019. The names of the candidates and their order on the ballot will be as follows: Kelly Person, Barbara Fratarigo, Gloria Toll-Hilt. Candidates do not run for a specific seat on the board. The individuals with the 3 highest vote totals will be elected. The seats are for a 3-year term of office and will run from July 1st, 2019 until June 30th, 2022. And now we move down to action items. School business management, Neil?
Item this evening is a recommendation to appoint the Honeywell Law Firm to provide legal services for the period beginning July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022.
May I have a motion to approve the legal services agreement? Judy, second. Gloria? Are there any questions or comments? Sean?
Just when we do that, do we go back out and re-solicit that service?
Well, that's what was discussed at the Business Practices Committee is there's no legal requirement that it has to be done in any specific time period because it's considered a professional service. So we have done that periodically, but typically working with the Business Practices Committee, we talk about when does the committee want to go out and go through a called request for proposal process. So we would contact firms and select some to come in and interview and that sort of thing. So
When will be the last time that we did this on some of these professional service contracts?
for legal services or other?
Well, I guess, yeah, since we're on legal services, when would be the last time we did that?
Somewhere around 2013 maybe, or something like that.
So the next opportunity to do this would not be till 2022, because we'll have this 3-year agreement.
Yeah, I mean, there is a termination clause in the agreement, but absent that, that would be the most logical time to do it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Is there any reason for the 3 years?
That tends to be fairly typical for professional services agreements. There is a relationship component, and these are not, if you've ever engaged the services of an attorney, you see every once in a while somebody will switch an attorney, but that tends to be a big thing after you've established a working relationship. There's really some reason of typically dissatisfaction where you would change at that point. But having an interval creates that opportunity where you know the contract is ending, so we're in for long enough, but not too long. So as long as things are going well, we know we're set for a while. We have the services of the individual that we want, but it also creates an endpoint where, again, we can make that decision about do we want to go out and do a request for proposal, or do we want to continue with the services for a little longer?
So did we just conclude with a 3-year?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. It wasn't a 1 year?
No, it wasn't a 1 year.
And we did, business practices kind of recommended that at the end of this next cycle, we should, do a request for proposals and look to see who's out there.
Is there a way to just make this a 1-year agreement? Can I make a motion right now?
You probably could, but we can terminate without cause upon 30 days, so really at any time for the life of the agreement, after 1 year, after 9 months, you could terminate it, so I would be comfortable with that, but of course you can always make a motion to shorten the length of it if you want to.
Yes.
Okay, is there?
I'd like to make a motion to change it from 3 years to 1 year.
Okay, is there?
With everything else being the same.
Is there a second for that motion? Okay, so by a show of are there any questions or comments or discussion on this? Okay, so all those in favor of the 1-year agreement, raise your hand for yes. Okay. 4. Okay, and all those opposed? Okay, the motion does not pass. And so now we will vote on the agreement as written unless there's any other questions or comments. Okay, all those in favor of the current agreement, please raise your hand. 7, 8. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, passes 8-1.
Next item is a resolution to canvass affidavit ballots for the May 21st, 2019 bond referendum. And just to tell you what an affidavit ballot is, that occurs when a voter comes to the polls and claims they're registered or eligible to vote, either voting in an election or school election, signing up for Board of Elections rather than voting in a general election, but we can't confirm that they're currently an active voter. It means that we have the voter votes. or working through, working with Albany County on that. So what we allow them to do is vote by what's called paper ballot. So it's the same propositions, support candidates, and so on. It's just on a piece of paper. They'll put into a sealed envelope. We don't open them at the night of the vote, so when we count out, we don't count them out. But we do establish a date the day following, the day following has to be within 10 days, where we'll then go back and research and make sure that we didn't make a mistake, that they are eligible. Usually that means looking through our records again in the County Board of Elections just to make sure that there just wasn't an error of some sort and they really are eligible to vote. If we determine that they are an eligible voter, we will then open the ballots at that, open the envelope and count the ballot at that time. If we determine that they aren't, sometimes they're just outside the boundaries, but not in the school district, etc., that ballot gets returned to them unopened with a reason for why it wasn't accepted. So as far as the resolution goes, it's designating May 22nd, 2019 at 2 p.m. for the canvassing of affidavit ballots, and that's at the district administrative offices, and that the individuals designated to cast and canvass the affidavit ballots are Neil Sanders, Linda Livingston, and Cecilia Caniso.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the resolution? Teresa, second Seema. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0.
That the internal audit report on staff attendance prepared by Questar Street-Bosses and to approve the corresponding corrective action plan as recommended by the audit committee.
May I have a motion to accept the audit and the corrective action plan? Barbara, second Tim. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0.
We have a resolution to approve the classroom rental agreement with Capital District YMCA to operate an after-school children's program for the 2019-20 school year.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution? Judy, second Gloria. Questions or comments? I just have a question more generally about before-school programs and what our offerings are. I know we have some families that need earlier drop-off times, but we're unable to accommodate, and I know they have difficulty finding a place to put their child between the time they have to be at work and the time that they can first drop their child off in school. And what sort of solutions do we have for families in that type of situation?
At the elementary levels, students can be dropped off at 7:30, and we have an adult in the cafeteria who can supervise, but that's the earliest. And I'm not sure what the time at the middle school is, but I know, is it 7:30 at the middle school?
Is that a Gelderland staff person that's supervising?
Yes, it's
starting at
typically a
7:30?
monitor or a teaching assistant.
And there's no way to move it up? I mean, say you had two parents that worked at Gelderland High School and they have elementary kids and they need to drop their kids off, or say they work at a high school in another district that takes them 30 or 40 minutes to get there. We just don't, we're saying, okay, we don't have solutions for them. I mean, I don't think 7 a.m. is that early if we have high school kids on the bus at 6:30.
I mean, I could always look into it. As soon as we'd had a 7:30, and whether or not we would have staff available to do that. And it would be at districts.
Later, so the kids would be there almost almost an hour and a half.
I'm thinking more at the elementary,
That's what I was
because,
thinking.
yeah, that would be 7 to 8:45 would be a long time.
I was thinking elementary.
So we can take a look at it.
Okay. All those in, yes, Teresa.
We had one parent recently wanting to essentially hire a teacher independently to watch their children, which for lots of reasons we couldn't do. So I'm sure there are other families who struggle with the early morning hours, and they come up with all kinds of solutions. But I communicated with the family that we just can't, the child would not be under the care of the school district at that time. So there was liability issues. It's complicated.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Last item this evening is to approve the agreement with SUNY Empire State College for our school district to accept students for internship and practicum experience.
May I have a motion to approve the internship agreement? Seema, second Teresa. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. And now we move to board president action items. One item this evening, which is the appointment of election workers for the May 21st, 2019 bond referendum, budget vote, and election. And the list of recommended individuals for appointment are before you. Are there any questions or comments on this?
Is there enough? I'm just curious if there are enough people at all the.
Fully staffed at the moment, so nobody decides to.
Can I have a motion to approve the appointment? Barbara, second Seema. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Passes 8-0. And now we move to board committee reports, audit.
The audit committee met on April 11th. We discussed what we just approved. Other items with the claims auditor reports and construction action.
Okay. Business practices?
We have not met since our last board meeting, but we will probably be sending out a survey for one more meeting. What parent has written to the district regarding some ideas about fundraising for the turf field. So we're going to reach out to meet with that person and have some dialogue.
Okay, sounds good. Communications?
And on the 29th, covered a number of items. We went over the month-by-month school board activities calendar, talked about community engagement, priorities, and goals that shows up in May. We're not going to be, Marie mentioned that we wouldn't be getting to that in May, but we talked about doing something in the fall. We talked about the timing of that is probably better off in the fall to prepare for the coming year. We also talked about the board meeting evaluation tool that I please ask you to all complete. Ben's still there, if he could email his in. One item of change that the board is or the committee is recommending to the board is that in question 9, we asked that the board members respect the confidentiality of the executive session. We felt that that's hard to assess right after a meeting. And so we're suggesting that we change that to read that board members maintain focus on the legally permissible topics that were appropriately noticed for executive session. So making sure that we're not creeping outside the scope of executive session. That also being the case, we talked about two other things. One is timing of these, and I think that the committee's goal is to get initial reactions from the board following the meeting instead of letting it sort of simmer and think. We want to sort of get that gut reaction if you were frustrated by something or extremely happy about something. We want to get that emotion out of you right away. And then the other piece is that we discussed adding a box at the top that says that you have no, or that you agree with all statements there. So if you don't want to check 10 boxes, we'll save you the trouble and just get you to check one box. We just want to make sure that we're getting everybody's forms back so that we know that everybody has had a chance to weigh in on that. We reviewed the website analytics for the capital project, so that'll be in the communication minutes, that'll be on the portal. And then the other thing that we discussed too, we had further discussion on the strategic planning item that did not get included in the budget, and I mentioned that we had some initial conversation about it, about getting that on the agenda, because it did show up as an item for the board in terms of priorities. And as I said in the meeting, and I've said before, that I think we'll find a way to get there if it remains a priority, but we have to all sign on to that, agree to that. I think there were some outstanding questions about the process and who would be involved in that, who the consultant would be, or I think we have to hash that out amongst us. I think 9 people have to be on board with the strategic planning concept in order for it to be effective. And if we can't find a way to get consensus among 9 of us to even engage in the process, I don't know how we get to the process. I don't know if anybody else wanted to chime in on that. If not, then our next meeting will be June 6th, 8 a.m. at the district office.
Sean? Policy?
Results of our work, and we're meeting June 7th.
Okay, sounds good. Public comment number 2. Linda, has anybody signed up? Board issues, ideas, and sharing? Anyone have anything this evening? Okay. And we do not need an executive session, so I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Judy, second Sean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
It is June 6th. I wonder why I wrote
Work,
down
guys.
June
I
7th.
looked at my notes because I have